Have you ever noticed that motherhood content is either curated perfection or chaos with a wine glass? But what about the moms in the middle? The ones who wanted this, who prayed for this, and still feel guilty that it's hard. I got tired of pretending I had it all figured out, so I created the Mom Department. I'm Deborah. I'm a mom of four, ages 6 all the way down to 5 months. And I'm one of those serial hobbyists, those people who genuinely love learning new things and then annoyingly share every detail to anybody who will listen, and probably they don't really care. But this one felt different because the mom department isn't just another hobby. It's a resource I wish I had when I was up at like 2 a.m. scrolling on apps looking for anyone who just understood what motherhood was about and understood what I was going through. So here's what this is. The Mom Department is your one stop shop for real, honest conversations about every department of motherhood, whether it's marriage, career, pregnancy, postpartum, entrepreneurship, all of it. And I call it the departments because motherhood isn't just like one of those jobs. It's literally running an entire company. We're CEOs of our little ecosystems, and there's the marriage department, the career department, the home economics department, the why is my kid pooping for the fifth time today department. Every week, I'll be sitting down with real moms. Some are industry leaders, some are your neighbors, and we're just going to be having honest conversations that we all need to be hearing. And I'll also be sharing my own honest reflections too about pregnancy, postpartum, career, faith, and all the hard stuff that nobody warns you about. Because here's the thing, you don't have to be a perfect mom or the hot mess mom. You can just be a mom trying to figure it out one department at a time. So let me tell you how I actually got here. Because I didn't just wake up one day and thought, like, oh, I should just start a podcast. This came from somewhere real. Before kids, I just literally worked to live and not the other way around. My weekends were literally just for hanging out with my husband. We would go out, we would, just literally live our lives without checking anyone's schedule. It was just us. We just were doing us. And honestly, I didn't think that hard about it. And I didn't think about what motherhood would really, really look like when I was actually in that season. I grew up in the early age of Instagram, the OG days, not the Instagram that we see now where everything is just curated and perfect and polished. I grew up, on Instagram, and I just saw that online motherhood just looked manageable, put together, like something you could handle with the right aesthetic, literally. Um, I always knew that I wanted to have a lot of kids. I'm like one of those weirdos who has always wanted to be a mom of a big family. And it's not something that's really common anymore. But I knew I always wanted a big family. But I never expected it to happen as fast as it did. I've had 4 kids in 5 years, which is kind of nuts if you think about it. But my life went from just having fun and sleeping in to literally being a CEO of a small chaotic company. And that happened just super quick. But honestly, here's what surprised me the most about becoming a mom. It was the daily dying to yourself. And I say that as someone who is honestly a selfish person. I like my own time. I like just vegging out and chilling and hanging out. And then suddenly you have a child and you're sharing everything, including your spouse, because, your kids need him too. It and that recalibration hit different than I expected. And the other thing that people don't talk about, it's the loneliness. The loneliness. Unless you're like actively seeking out community or you create it yourself, it just does not appear. I mean, nobody warns you about that part, honestly. Because, friendships that you had, especially if you have friends that don't have children yet, those friendships kind of can sometimes disappear. No, again, that doesn't always happen, but sometimes it does. And nobody talks about that. And let me tell you about a few moments that really shaped where I am now. I remember distinctly in 2022, I just had my second kid a year and a half after I had my first child, and I hit a wall. literally, I felt like I completely lost in motherhood. And I realized I had no real relationships outside of my sisters. Um, and I love my sisters, but I literally found myself on those mom apps. It's like so embarrassing to, to talk about, but I found myself on those mom apps, scrolling and swiping, looking for other mom friends who were in my area. And it was like those dating apps for lonely mothers. And that's when I thought, literally, I was just saying, sitting there at 2 a.m. thinking something is broken here. And this just cannot be me because I'm not the only one that's on these apps. But I just learned on the flip side, I just learned that, I cannot be the only one, feeling this. And another thing that kind of shaped my motherhood perspective, and I'm just gonna kind of flip the other coin, and that's about during my postpartum periods where, I'm sure everyone, if you're a mom and you've been through this, during your postpartum period, you actually really do need help, and we don't talk about that. And you need genuine, real help. And one thing that I realized is, which I'm so grateful for, is my mother. During my postpartum periods, my mom will come and help for a month, and she just comes and helps. Whether that's holding my baby, whether that's changing my sheets, whether that's preparing meals, whether that's taking care of my other kids, changing a diaper, anything I need, she's there and she's just helping. And you don't realize that, we really do need genuine help. And it changes everything when you have that. And it changed how I healed, how I was able to just not focus on, anything else that was going on in my house, whether it was food, whether it was laundry. I was able to just lay in bed and bond with my baby. And it changed how I was able to show up with my other kids or show up with my husband, and it made me realize that the difference between thriving and just surviving often just comes down to one little thing, or big thing actually, support. And there was this moment, I don't remember what triggered it, where I felt like just so overwhelmed, but I also felt like I don't have a right to complain because, I wanted this. I prayed for this. I chose this life. And so who am I to really say that it's hard? And that guilt that you get from just even admitting that, that's the thing that nobody really wants to talk about. But here's what saved me. My sisters. We do these daily FaceTime calls, and we've done this for years. And when we all became mothers, we're all pretty close in age. So when we became mothers at separate times in our lives, those calls literally just turned into battle story sessions, just sharing real stuff, the hard stuff, the funny stuff. And I slowly realized I'm not the only one that's walking through this, the good and the bad and the ugly. And that's when it clicked that if these conversations that I'm having daily with my sisters are helping me so much, maybe they could help somebody else too. So I started paying attention to the motherhood content that was online and out there, and I noticed this really, really weird divide. On the one side, you have that tradwife aesthetic, the everything that's perfect, and the house is clean, the kids are in all these matching outfits, mom's in that perfect pressed dress, and you have sourdough rising on the counter, and honestly, that's beautiful. Honestly, I dabble in the sourdough thing, and I don't, I don't like beat up anybody or any mom who's able to have like, the perfectly clean house and everything's, together. But, and it, honestly, that is beautiful, but it's not real life for the most of us. And on the other side, you've got that like hot mess mom content. You know what I'm talking about. The ones with the wine jokes and, everyone's just celebrating being a hot mess and just celebrating chaos and celebrating that my kids ate Cheerios all throughout their meals for the whole day. And, it's just not real life and it shouldn't be real life. And they just want that surviving and not thriving to be the norm, and they want it to be like almost like a personality. And look, I get it. I'm in the thick of it. I have 4 kids, again, all very close in age, so I get it. But that's not the whole picture either. And what happened, and it made me really wonder what happened to regular motherhood. What happened to just real experiences, the authentic community, like where we just actually show up for each other and not just perform for each other. That's exactly what it is sometimes. I feel like we're all online on Instagram, on TikTok, or whatever. And TikTok actually sometimes can be a little bit more raw and gritty, but like sometimes on Instagram, it just feels like we're all just performing, like just putting on like the best foot forward. And it's either, obviously the best aesthetic online, the beige mom and everything, or it's the everything is just chaotic mess and we're just performing. And that's and I've decided that that's what I want to build here. I want to build honesty, authenticity. The mom department is about talking with moms who've been there, sharing practical strategies, telling encouraging stories, not so that you can be the perfect mom, but it's so you can thrive instead of just surviving. Every time you tune in, I want you to feel 3 things, literally 3 things. I want you to feel seen, I want you to feel valued, and I want you to feel encouraged. And that's it. That's the goal for every time you tune into these episodes. Okay, so let me tell you what's coming up on the podcast. First up, I'm going to be sitting with my twin sister, Sarah. She's a senior finance manager who worked at some of the top companies I'm sure like everybody's heard of. She's worked at Meta. And after having kids, she stepped away from corporate for a little bit. And it's not because she really wanted to. And I've always considered her to be that corporate girly, but it's because she just felt like she really had to. And we're going to be talking about it. We're going to be talking about what it actually looks like to navigate your way back into career after becoming a mom. And we're going to be talking about the real challenges, the identity of it all, and just all of that stuff. And then we're also going to be having conversations about miscarriage, about IVF, about grief. Um, we're going to be talking about parenting, generational parenting, and we're just going to be talking about all different experiences within motherhood because they all deserve space. There's an episode that's going to be coming up about whether you can actually have it all as the hustle mom culture, mom boss. And to be quite honest, and here's a little spoiler, it's really, really complicated. And yes, for my birth junkies out there, well, I'll be sharing all 4 of my home birth stories, just every single detail. And we're also going to be covering the marriage department, the career department, the faith department, the postpartum department, all of it, because I believe we all deserve a place to talk about the whole picture of motherhood. So here is what I'm asking. If this resonated with you today, if you heard something today and thought, okay, this girl gets it, sis understands what's going on, I'll ask that you subscribe, whether you're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening, just hit that button so you don't miss what's coming up on the podcast. And if you know a mom who needs this, share it with her. Send her the episode. Because as my 4-year-old always says to me, Mommy, sharing is caring. Go ahead and share this podcast with someone you know who would enjoy this and needs to hear this. You can find me on Instagram or TikTok, and I'll put my handles on the screen if you're watching on YouTube, and I'll put my handles in the show notes if you're just listening on Apple or Spotify. So you can connect with me and come say hi. Tell me the departments that you want me to cover because I'm building this for you, and I want to hear from you. So I'm going to leave you with this before I sign off this episode. And I was thinking about this. Motherhood isn't really about having it all together. It's about showing up messy, exhausted, questioning everything, and then finding your people along the way. And I hope that we can do that together. Welcome to the Mom Department. And I'm so glad you're here. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.